Hello guys, welcome to today's video. Today we will be building a simple stopwatch JavaScript, HTML and CSS project. And let me just start the project so we will have a look and feel of how it all works. I'm just going to hit the start button, and as you can see it starts with the seconds and it starts reading really nicely with nice fonts. And this is just the finished project, and one interesting thing about this is that it goes into the minute format. Immediately it gets to 60 seconds, and I'm just going to skip to when it's about to enter that so that you can see it. And here we are, it's about to get into that, and as you can see it nicely reduces the font and goes into the minute format. And this also goes for when it goes into the hours format. And also one other thing you can do is you can pause. When you pause the timer, it stops. As you can see, if you continue, it continues from where it stops, and it's really nice, really functional. Pause, continue, continues, just like that. And then if you want to clear out everything, just hit stop and it resets the whole stopwatch. Let's head back to the code editor and start building this project. And we're here. The code editor we're going to be using for this particular project is the Spck Code Editor. It's a really nice app, and if you're new to this channel, I have a video that explains how to download this application and how to use it, every functionality necessary, including the navigations and all that. You would really want to check out that video. I fully recommend you do so, as it explains everything we're about to do and basically everything. And this is just the finished project. As you can see, we have 3 files, HTML file, JavaScript file, and then a CSS file. So we're just going to build our own. So we head back to the main navigation. So we go to the workspace, and then as you can see, I already created a stopwatch, a new stopwatch file here as I was testing. So I'm just going to create one up from the scratch. So I'll just go to HTML, and then we would like to call this new stopwatch. Since the other one was just stopwatch, so we like to follow the convention. And it gives us these 3 files. One is a HTML file, another CSS, and then a JavaScript file. And we have this barebone HTML templates, as it gives it to us as default. And as you can see, the main .js file has already been linked, and also the the style.css file is already linked right here, the custom styles, and also the project functionality. So we just have this paragraph tags here, so we're just going to remove it and start coding. Just made a mistake. I'm just going to go back one time, and that's okay. So as I said before, if you don't really know what I'm doing right here, you should really check out that video that explains everything about how to customize these applications yourself. And we just need a div tag. Inside this div tag, then after this we want to get another div tag which has another class with a name of container, and inside here we want to get a few informations, and this is where the information that reads the timer, that counts the timer, will be, and we'll be imputing a few span elements without space. So we'll have a span which has an ID attribute of hours, and inside here we'll just put 00, the name, information, just to indicate the hours, the number of hours. And then we need a colon, so we need another span attribute, not span like that, span like span, and close it off with another span. And inside this particular span, we're gonna give it an ID attribute. An ID attribute of not really an ID attribute, but rather a class attribute. Class attribute of colon. So this will contain the colon that will separate these timers to indicate where the minutes, the seconds, and then the hours would be. So another one, we need another span, and guess what? It's for the minutes. So we'll give it an ID attribute this time of minutes. I hope I can spell that correctly. And yeah, and then span. Then we would want another span. Yeah, so many spans, right? the class attribute again of colon, and then we insert a colon right here. And finally we want another span which would contain you guessed it, seconds. An ID attribute of course, you guessed it again, seconds. And we'll just give it a 0, then we'll close off the tags. And actually we want to give another 0 here so that we can actually see what we're doing. And yeah, and I think this is all we need for now. Next we would want to get the buttons, so I'm just gonna give a comment right here to get HTML buttons tab, call it buttons, close that off. And then we want to have a div with a class attribute of BTS. This class attribute is what we will be using to style these containers. So here we would want to get 3 buttons. So go with button. So give it button of disabled, but we don't really want it to be disabled, but rather we want to give it a class of start to represent the button that will start. And then we want another button just to make our lives easier. Let's try and see if we can copy this, and then hit the copy right here, and then paste it 2 more times. Now don't delete. Paste it 2 more times. Yeah, and then we change the values. Call this one pause, small letter, and then right here you can use capital letter just to make it look nice and neat. Then this would be stop. Right here we would call it clear, and the reason for that is because JavaScript actually has a function of stop. So if we call this stop, and when we're using the JavaScript to name it, we call it stop, it might throw an error. And basically this is everything we need in the HTML for this program. And let's just play it and see what we have, or rather run it. And as you can see, we're having the minutes, the hour sign, the minutes, and of course the seconds, then the 3 buttons. And then of course next up, the CSS stylings. And we're just gonna hit the styles files, and before we start styling the body, we want to get a wildcard operator, which is represented with the asterisk, and then we want to give it some stylings, say border box sizing, give it a box sizing of border box. You can see the intelligence is really nice playing out. And of course a margin 0, remove every default browser margins, and a padding of 0 to close that off. Then we get to the body. We don't really need this. We want to give it a background color with a linear gradient. We want it to be 120 degrees, and we're giving it an RGB colors. These are basic CSS stylings of 89, 0, and 25. Hello guys, this is me from the future. As you can see, while I was coding, I left off my linear gradient value, the last value, at 25, that is 89,025, but the actual value for that is supposed to be 89,0 and 255. So just insert the last value to 255 and you will be good to go, just to make your background look nice and neat, more than mine. And then the following color would be a purple color, say purple, just like that, and I think we're good to go. So if I run this and see what we have, okay, we're having something that looks nice, but it's really not really nice, so we're gonna make that look nicer. So we'll be having another property of background dash repeat, and we'll give it non-repeat so that the background doesn't keep repeating and making it look all not so good. And then a background fixed position, background, my spelling, background dash fixed. Oh boy. I spelled that correctly. Background, not really a background fixed, but a background attachment. Sorry, I'm gonna set it to fixed rather. And then that's just all we need for the background properties. We'll be setting the display to flex, align every item to the center, align items to center. This is basically all we need for now. Let's see how it's looking. Okay, now we want to I forgot to also justify this to center. That's why the whole content. Okay, let's run it again. Okay, as you can see now it's at the center. Okay, then we want to get container class that we defined earlier, or the first div container class that we defined. First, we want to give it a transform attribute and want to translate the position of that container 0 from the horizontal side, but on the vertical side we want to give it a 30% so it can be translated from the top to bottom by 30%. And then we want to give it a background color of anti-white, there's this one, and a padding of 10 pixels, 10 px, then a border radius of 5, just to make 5 pixels, just to make the edges look nice and smooth. Then a box shadow of 0 by 2 pixels and by 4 pixels. And we want the color to be an RGBA color of say RGBA, and we'll be imputing the codes, say 255, just a really white color with very slashed opacity. Give it opacity of 0.5. That's good. And next we want to set the display again to flex, and after that we want to set the flex direction to be column, this one, column, and to justify content, want to justify the content to be at the center. And basically the flex direction directs everything. Normally the default setting for when you display the flex in CSS should be on the horizontal. It drags everything and centers it on the horizontal, but when you add the flex direction, makes it look like it's a flex of block. And I hope that makes sense. And the justify content will be setting that to space around, to make it evenly around the items inside the container block. The items we are of course looking at are the counters and the buttons. And then we want to align items, if I can actually spell align items. Then we'll give that a center, and then we want the width of the container to be a total of 250 pixels, and then the height to also be 250 pixels. Close that off, and that's just about everything we need for the container. If we run this so that we can see where we're at now, as you can see the application is looking nice and neat already. And another thing we would want to get is of course the counter class that we defined. So we say counter, we want to give it a width of 100%, then the display to be flex again, and justify content to be space around. And then we want to be getting the 3 buttons that we define. So we just say start dot comma, of course after the comma, and then pause, the comma, and then finally the clear button as what we defined them with. If I'm correct, if I go back to the index, you can see we have all the classes right here. Back right here, we're giving them a few color. I want the color to be plain white, and I want to give it a border of 0 to remove the default borders. They want to set the border radius to give it a really nice curve. Set that 5 pixels, not 50 pixels, and want to give it some padding properties of from top to bottom 5 pixels. Then in the horizontally we give it 20 pixel property, and want to give it also a box shadow property. So a box shadow of 0, 2 pixels, and 4 pixels. Of course, you have to include the color. Give it a gray color, and then a cursor. The cursor for the button should be pointer, and give it a transition element just to make the transitioning smooth and really nice. Say 5 seconds. Say ease. And let's just run this and see how we're looking right now. As you can see, we're coming up, but it's not really looking as perfect as it should yet. So let's keep on editing. And right now we want to get their colors. Background color. Set this one to green. Then for pause, set it to background color. Set it to gray color, and finally the clear color, and you guessed it, set it to be red. And let's see how it's looking again. Now the colors are manifest. They are looking nice. I want to set some hover property so that when you hover over a button, it creates a really nice hover. I'll give it a hover property. Okay, hover. And then we want to get dot pause, and another hover property, and finally want to get the stop, which has a clear name, then a hover property. Then want to give it a box shadow. Literally want to increase the box shadow when you hover over it or click on it. It looks as though it's increasing in size, something like that, just to create really nice animation on it. And give this a 4 pixels, and then 8 pixels, another color of gray. And finally want to give it an opacity, just to reduce the opacity a bit, opacity of 0.7. That's just all we need. Let's see how it's looking now again. As you can see, when you click on it, it comes up just like that. I want to hide some of these buttons because we don't really need all of them right now. So we want to hide the pause button and the clear button. So we're going to go back right here, say display to be none, here to display to be none. And if we run it again, as you can see, we're having just a stop button. So I'm thinking we made some mistakes here, because the styling for the counter is not really appearing well. Okay, I think I misplaced the style for BTN. This is meant to be the style for BTN's class. Let's run it again. Okay, now it's looking more better. And the content, the counter class should have a few classes that increases the size of the font Also gives it a really nice font style and makes the font weight to be light. So we're just going to be adding give it a size of 50 pixels initially, and a font, not just font but font family of Corel New, if I could spell that correctly, new. If we don't find that, we default to just Corel, and if we don't find that, we default to monospace. So we have Corel New. And finally, we want to get a font weight of lighter to make it really light. Initially this would probably look hideous. Okay, it's looking nice, it's not looking hideous. And this is just probably all we need for the styling. And next up, it's the JavaScript. Okay guys, before we actually start coding the functionality in the JavaScript file, I want to display some of the, as you can see, if we run this program, you can see the hours, the minutes, and all these columns are initially visible. So we want to set it to be not to be visible initially. So we just get those properties, say hours, and then we get the column, and of course we then get the minutes. If I can actually spell correctly minutes, okay, get it. And we'll set the display to none. And then finally we would want to just increase the size of the seconds, and then the font, want to increase the font size, give it a font size of 100 pixels initially. Then if we run this and we're good to go, now we can start coding on the JavaScript environment. We'll just get rid of this, and for now we will just want to get some of the HTML tags and documents that we will be needing for these functionalities. So, say get elements by ID, call hours. These are just bare bone JavaScript. Get another constant of minutes. I find it hard to spell minutes, don't I? Yes, I do. Definitely do. Minutes, document, dot, get element by ID. Call this another spelling of minutes. Minutes. Then we want to get another constant for the seconds. Set that to document dot get element by ID. Set that to seconds. Then we want to get the columns. Another const columns post document dot get. Or rather, we won't be using the get element by class name here. We want to use query selectors. Place everywhere the column appeared, so we'll say column here, and also get start, say start equal to document dot query selector. Since this is just one, get start, of course we have to use the dot operator to indicate that it's a class, not just an HTML tag. So we'll say const to get the pause, what am I spelling? Document dot query selector, and of course we use the dots again, then pause, close that off. And finally, last but not the least, I want to get the stop button or initialize that to clear, because JavaScript has a stop function. If we use stop here, it will throw in an error. Just to save us some time, I'm not going to do it. You can do it and see it for yourself. You cannot be using JavaScript initial variables to use it as variables. Things like delete, let, const, you cannot be using them as variables. And say query selector, then say dot clear. And right now we want to start our functionality. I'm just gonna insert some comments right here, just to indicate what we're doing. So we'll say setting event listener. We're setting a JavaScript event listener. I want to get the start button because that's what gets initial clicks, and setting event of click. Once you click it, writing a function, we'll call it trigger func, trigger the stopwatch to start. And then we'll define the function here. Say function, no function, function. Okay. And then say function, call it of course trigger func. Hope I got the spelling correct this time. Yeah, I did. Just to prove to you that I did, say console log it out, say okay. So if we go back and run this and we hit this start button, nothing really happens. But if you go to the console right here, see C console not defined, this is console not C console. Okay, let's do that again. Click and we get okay. So we're good to go. Say start, get the start button. And we'll get the pause button too. Say pause or style the display equal to block, just like that. And then lastly you get the clear button. Say dot style dot display equal to block. Just to show you how this works, if we run the program and hit start, you can see our buttons appear. And moving on, you would want to start coding the functionality so that once you hit start, the timer will begin. But before that, we want to do some things first. What that means is that we'll be initializing some initial variables for seconds, minutes, and hours. So if we come up right here, and then we include a comment, say initial values. Say let's, because since we'll be assigning them values again, we'll be using let's say sec number seconds, which was identify seconds number. This one for min number, for minute number, a number equal to 0, and then hours number equal to 0. I guessed it. And then let's come back into our function. Of course, we'll write in another comment. And this comment helps you to understand your code well, probably when you revisit it and some other time. So right here we'll be assigning a constant, call it timer, to a set interval to keep on running our program every second. Okay, that's what this initialization will do. So say set interval. Set interval takes in two parameters. One is a callback function, and the other The order is actually the time, the number of seconds or milliseconds the function would wait to call or run the function again. So in our case, 1000 milliseconds, which equates to 1 second. So each second, what we want this timer constant to do is to first of all set our sec number. We're adding it a +1, so we are appending a +1 to it, and then we'll be including it to the seconds. So we say seconds, we get the seconds variable that we got from our document right here. Okay, then we'll set the inner text. So we say dot inner text to be the sec number, and that's it for now what we need. So if we run this, click start, you can see our timer starts off. But before we do this, we would want to make a few checks, and we'll be running a function to check where the let's say the timer is, and also this will help us to activate the minutes and also the hours. So before we actually start adding this number, I want to call a checker function here. So we'll just call it, first of all, let's just include a comment, of course, another comment, call it checker function. So you just say checker func, and we'll call this check, just call it checker. We're taking two parameters. First of all, to take the seconds number and the min number. Why this is so, you will be seeing when we start writing the function, and we'll be doing function. Say checker. Okay, take second, and just in here we'll be defining a few things. We'll be checking where the seconds number is. If it is equal to 59, we would want the minutes function, or rather the minutes format, to appear with each column. If the minutes parameter is equal to 59 and also the seconds parameter is equal to 59, we would want the hours parameter to also appear, and just like that. And let's just start doing that. So first of all, we're writing another comment, and say if seconds is equal to this triple equal sign is equal to sec number is equal to 59. Let's set sec number to be equal to -1. Why I set it to -1 because automatically it should start counting from 0. And then we'd want to display the minutes, so add a comment to change. Want to get the seconds, say dot styles, rather dot style, then the font size, decrease the font size, set it to be equal to 50 pixels now, and then the minutes. Why do I find it so hard to spell you? How do I spell minutes here? I didn't even spell it correctly. Minutes. Okay. I hope I didn't screw up elsewhere. I'm saying minutes, or rather minutes dot now complete content so that you can display the content. Just to make some checks where I didn't screw up. Let's go back to HTML, see how we spelled the minutes. Okay, should be minutes, just like that. Hopefully I'm correct. And then we also want to get the colon. So if we say colons, I want to get the second one, since arrays, what this query selector did was to put all the columns in the form of an array. An array starts from 0. The second column should be on the index of 1. That means we should get the index of 1, and then set the display of the styles to display content, just like it. And that's basically all we need for this. So if we include some comments here, say check for hours. So right here we'll be writing an if statement which checks for if minutes is equal to 59, and also it checks if seconds is equal to 59. If this is so, we want to be writing some functionalities, and first of all we want to set minute number. We want to set the minute number to be 0 and the hours number to be 1, or rather plus equals 1 to append. Where's our plus equals? Okay, 1. And then we want to change some styles. So say change styles. Here I want to get hours, and then change the style attributes of the display to be equal to content, just like that. And then we'll have to get the first column right now. So we'll say columns, then we're looking for the index of 0. Set the style attribute of display to be equal to content, just like that. And this actually checks all these things for us. So take for instance, if this the initial seconds was say 57, and we run this program and say start, it will start from 58, 59, and you can see it starts counting the minutes, but it should have added something here. So I think we're missing some things, and that should be from the trigger function. We should set the minutes to start reading the minutes immediately we run into the minutes. So say minutes dot inner text should be equal to min number, just like that. To run this again, say start, you should see how it will work. And of course, when it gets to 60 again, it adds 2 to the minutes, and just like that, and so on and so forth. And we also want to be doing this for hours. So say hours dot inner text, set that to hour number, just like that. That's about all we need for the beginner, or to begin the timer. So next up, we want to write an ABAP program to pause the timer. Now we can be able to start the timer, but we can't be able to pause it. So I'm just going to set this initial value back to 0 for now, and then want to pause the timer. So we're just going to insert in a comment, pause timer, and it's going to be an event listener inside of this trigger function. So add an event, and it's going to be a click event. Remember, it's an event that is written inside of this trigger function. It's inside of it, not outside. So we're using the arrow function right here, and for now we're wanting to do a few things when we hit the pause button. First of all, we want to set the start style attribute, the display attribute to be equal to block, and then we also want to change the text display, not display but inner text, rather the inner text to be continue. And then we want to set the pause button style display attributes to be equal to none, of course. And then one other thing we would want to do is to clear the timer to completely remove the interval. So we'll be using the JavaScript object or method clear interval to do that. So say clear interval, this one right here, and we'll input the timer just like here, because we initialized it right here, const equal to timer. So we would clear it right here, and we would just see how it works. If we say pause, it stops, as you can see. But if you hit continue, okay, if you hit continue, start, because we are still dealing with the same start button. You say pause, it stops. You say continue, it continues. Why it's continuing? Because we are displaying back the start button initially from here. So once you hit the continue button, what it's triggered is the start button, but it's just working as though it's a continue button because the text is first being changed to continue. And then we want to also build the pause button. So we'll say rather the stop button. So we'll come here and say stop timer. And basically what we want to do is to run an event listener on the clear button, and right here it will be a click event. So we'll say this equal to, set it to an arrow function, and once you are inside of this function, we would want to start running some style properties on the start, pause, and clear buttons. So first of all, we're writing a comment says display buttons to display the necessary and remove the necessary buttons. So basically it's gonna remove the pause and stop button, and then display the start button, and then change the text from continue back to start. So we'll just start with start dot inner text should be equal to waiting back to start, and then start dot display, or rather style dot display is equal to block. And then we want to get the pause buttons, so we'll say style dot display equal to none, and then finally clear dot style dot display equal to none. And once we have done this, we want to also reset the initial variables to 0, because as you can see, once the timer starts, the initial variable starts changing. So once we stop it, we want to also reset it back to 0, everything. So we're just going to say reset count. So you see set number should be equal to 0, comma, mean number should be equal to 0, and then it should be mean number, so like that. Then our number should be equal to 0, so like that. And then after this, we want to, of course, clear the interval so that the timer can actually stop reading. So we'll say clear interval, and of course we set it to the timer class or the timer constant that we declared right here, just right here. So you can see that's what makes it continually reading. So the clear interval just breaks out of it. And we're almost done for this tutorial. Lastly, what we want to do is to reset the font size of seconds back to 100 pixels, and also remove the seconds, the minutes, and the colons that will be there once the stop button is hit. So writing a style comment, resetting style. So say seconds dot inner text. I can use inner HTML actually, but I would want to just use inner text since we're dealing with text, not HTML documents, and we've been using that throughout the video. So let's just stick with the convention and say sec number equal to sec number, which is now equal to 0. So we're initializing back seconds equal to sec number, which we have already initialized to 0 right here. And then we want to also set seconds dot style dot font size. I want to put back the font size back to 100 pixels. 300 pixels, and want to get the minute. So minute dot styles dot display this time, and basically what we want is to set the display to none. This I'm gonna do for the rest of it all. So we say colons dot, I could use it for each here, but just to cut the chase and just to stick with conventions and not really go up and down, say colon, get the first index, set the style attribute, the display property equal to, again, none. We're resetting everything, say colons, just like that. Then we get this time the 0 index, then the style dot display equal to none again. Want to make sure it's in parentheses, and then finally we want to get the hours. We'll say dot style dot display equal to none. Basically, if we got everything right, this should do it. I think we have an error here. We put a space instead of a dot. Okay, that should fix the error, hopefully. And of course another space here instead of a dot. Okay, that's fixed the error. And you can see how powerful this application is. So if we run this again, say start, as you can see it's going really nicely. Say pause, it pauses. Say continue, it continues. If we want to restart everything again, hit the pause, the stop button, and everything comes back afresh, as you can see. If you want to test out the minutes version and the hours version, basically what we can do is we can come here and set this to say 58, 55 seconds, right? Set it to 55, then set this one to 59. Or if we want to test the minute first, need this, start from 56, 7, 8, 9, and bam, goes into minute format. And if you want to test out for the hours format, just change it to 59, and basically, as you can see, changes to the hours format. So I'm just trying to show you, just not to waste our time and all that. So I'm just going to send this back to 0 and 0. Basically, every code we used to program this, I will be leaving it in my GitHub account. So I'll be leaving the link on the description below. And hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it taught you something really nice on dealing with JavaScript, HTML, CSS projects, and all that. Thanks for watching, and of course, as usual, smiles. See you on the next video.